Okay, this video is called What Lowers IQ in Children and in Young Adults. So first of all, it starts with the parents. If the mother is eating a healthy diet before pregnancy and during pregnancy, the child has a better chance of having an optimal healthy brain. If she's eating a lousy diet, some of that's going into the placenta, going into the baby. Lack of breastfeeding. Nowadays, women are pressured to return to work in 3 months or less, and that means less breastfeeding for the baby. The babies do best. Breast milk is made for babies' brain development. Formula, Dr. McDougall had once said it should be considered child abuse. It's really nowhere near as good as breast milk. The formula will often be in an aluminum can with a BPA liner. BPA is bisphenol A. It's an estrogenic plastic that is also a mitochondrial inhibitor. It's reconstituted sometimes with fluoride water, sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, which can contain mercury as a contaminant. It's non-organic, often with GP glyphosate sprayed soy. Glyphosate is an excitotoxin, brain toxin. It also is toxic to the gut lining and predisposes to fatty liver, so it's not good for health. Atrazine is typically sprayed on the corn, like for the high fructose corn syrup. That is also a mitochondrial inhibitor, and it's very estrogenic. A lot of parents will heat up the baby bottle to warm the formula in a microwave, and that's not good because that puts more plastic into the bottle. It's now being shown that at autopsy, people have microplastics in their brains and their kidneys and other locations, so that is not good for the brain. Then the next thing is the home environment. The best thing is for a kid to spend time with mother and father and responsible siblings. Sometimes when the kids are both young, they can be jealous of each other, but homeschool is the best school. I realize that's seldom available for most people in the modern world, but kids that grow up with religion, they do better. They've got more hope, more optimism, more resilience. If the parents stay together, the kids do better. Single parent homes, women kid themselves. Women in the modern world are quite delusional, thinking they can be like men. I can tell you, in my experience with women, they cannot think like a man. It's just not in them. A woman is a woman, a man is a man. And in my experience, the women, they're reasonably good for a kid before puberty. But the older that kid gets, the more female way of thinking just causes terrible problems. They have too much of an idealized view of the world, and they don't know enough. The women in my life, I see them, when it comes to men, they just do one stupid thing after another. They don't understand men at all. We don't have people being nice to us. People are pretty nasty to us all the time, and we're very used to it. So we perceive problems and threats much better than women do. We're also more motivated usually, is what I have seen. Don't get me wrong, a lot of women do well in school because school is a female-friendly environment where conformity and just doing what the teacher says is highly rewarded. But you get out in the real world and you have to think on your feet more. And when men are raised by a father figure as well as a mother, they do best having both parents. Watching TV is really bad for kids. Think of watching TV as just a way to cause brain damage and lower IQ. You shouldn't even have a TV in the house. I haven't watched TV. I don't have a TV. I have never had a TV in my entire life, except for when I was a kid. We had one in my parents' house when I was growing up, but we didn't watch that much. I watched more than I should, but not that much because I was always playing sports. You don't want the house too noisy. If the house is too noisy, the kids can't study. Like in my ex-wife's house, we had 5 dogs. Well, that would make it difficult to study. The dogs are making a lot of noise, stinking up the place with all their poop. If people are playing loud beat music or grunge music or heavy metal, that's makes it impossible to study. You can get ear protectors, but still, kids need a quiet place to read and study and to think. Public schools are a disaster. If you have any chance whatsoever to homeschool your kid, do that, or send them to a Catholic school, get them into some type of private school. The public schools are designed to make children stupid minimum wage employees with low expectations, turn them against their parents, make them atheists, teach them everything in a way that they forget everything. They teach Spanish based on grammar. No one remembers anything. They teach history based on dates. No one remembers anything. They teach spelling and stuff based on vocabulary lists. No one remembers anything. No one cares about standardized tests. Real learning comes from conversations, pursuing a goal, reading based on what you want rather than being forced to read something. We've talked about that before. A 6th grade class, The book's called The Book Whisperer by Donald Miller. If you let the kids read whatever book they want, they will read an average in her class of 42 books a year. If you force them to read a book together as a class, you'll read 1, 2, or 3 books. They'll all hate it, and they'll try to weasel out of it because it's an obligation rather than a pleasure. Reading for one's self by choice is a pleasure because you make a prediction about the book. You make a guess, and then you try to see if your prediction is true. And in the process, you learn something, and it's fun. Pop culture is basically evil. Things like modern art are a farce, a fake, A child could make modern art. And then that's why I can't stand these college professors that pretend that modern art is real. That's a disgrace. I know they do it because they think it helps them keep their jobs. Maybe they're forced to do it. Naturalism in books means where the characters have no volition and you have these anti-hero figures that are really kind of vulgar lowlifes rather than good heroic characters, which is what you see in good literature. And Ayn Rand talked about that. The best style of writing is what you would call romantic realism, where the lead character has, a sense of volition, of the ability to try to overcome their obstacles, versus in naturalism, it's just fate. The point being is, in a volitional book, where the lead character overcomes obstacles, one can learn from that, and it builds hope and resilience. Versus naturalism, you just see all these bad things happen based on fate, and there's nothing that people can do, and that leads to despair. Atheism leads to despair. Christianity leads to hope. It is a much better thing. It inspires achievement. Depends on the friends. Kids are going to do what their friends do. If their friends are into mischief, the kid will be into mischief too. So it's very important who your kids hang around with. What you should try to do is make your home environment as pleasant as possible so the kids are going to want to be home and you can keep an eye on them. If you have a house that there's nothing to do, then the kid's not going to want to be home. They're going to go to their friend's house, and who knows what they're going to be doing over there. Alcohol, tobacco, vaping, marijuana, and other drugs of abuse, they all cause brain damage. Okay, they're all very bad, very dangerous, and should be avoided as much as possible. Probably the least brain damage comes from alcohol, but alcohol in excess, of course, can cause significant brain damage. A lack of exercise. That makes kids dumber over time. Lack of sunshine. You've got to get outdoors. We're made to walk around outdoors in the daytime getting exercise. A lousy diet. Processed foods just make people fat, sick, and stupid. There's mold inhibitors in them all the time, which are, typically succinate dehydrogenase inhibitors of the inner mitochondrial membrane electron transport chain. And those, you don't want mitochondria inhibitors. They slow down your energy level, your function. High fat, fried food, not organic, sprayed with glyphosate, naturally, obesity, all these things lower cognitive function. Microplastics, we talked about that, so you don't want to be drinking water out of plastic bottles. Excitotoxins, basically stimulants, caffeine, aspartame, glyphosate, high-fat diets. High-fat diets are an indirect stimulant in a harmful way because they'll cause insulin resistance. That becomes more of a problem as the person gets older, but even nowadays we're seeing more type 2 diabetes in young people. Head trauma. You don't want to avoid head trauma. Everybody makes some mistakes when they're young. Like I played soccer for a little while when I was young, and the coaches would kick from the corner and have you do corner kicks and hit the ball with your head. Completely stupid thing to do. Boxing, bad idea. Some kids, if you're going to do any type of MMA or something like that, do one that doesn't have punching in the face, because any type of punching to the head is going to lower your cognitive function. Football is a ton of fun. It's probably the most fun sport to play, but it's going to cause brain damage. You keep doing that for a long time, especially, the older you get, the bigger and stronger the guys get. I was around a lot of football players in college, man. Those guys are giants. They're huge, huge. Plus, a lot of them go on steroids, they're taking testosterone and they bulk up from 200 to 270 pounds. They're massive. Okay, inhaling. So you get hit by one of those guys, man, they'll knock you over in 2 seconds, and that ain't good for your health. Inhaling toxins, swimming in chlorinated pools. Everybody thinks swimming's such a good sport. I think it's stupid. I went to Stanford, which is like national champions in swimming, and I'm telling you something, I never met a smart swimmer, okay? I think it lowers their IQ. It makes them dumb in some way. You're inhaling that chlorine for hours every day. That's not going to help your cognitive function. Look what it does to their hair. What's it doing inside their bodies, okay? Chlorine, it's a negative anion, and you get these trichloromethanes and other toxic chemicals floating above the water level where they take a breath between strokes while they're swimming. Not good. Now, golf theoretically would be a good fun sport, but they spray so much stuff on the golf courses like atrazine and other chemicals. Not good. Excessive psychological stress and sleep deprivation, those both have a stimulant effect because they increase your catecholamines and your cortisol, which will increase your neuronal glutamate transmission, excitatory neurotransmitters. So they basically have the effect of being like a cytotoxins. Okay, dental amalgams, typical silver fillings are 50% mercury. Okay, and then if you get a replacement with some of these other fillings, they'll often contain 45% aluminum oxide. Aluminum's a neurotoxin that's probably going to be neurotoxic to your brain. You got bidirectional veins from the jaw bones, the maxilla above, the mandible below, in communication with your brain. Not good. That's the whole story about how amalgams are thought to significantly increase the risk of multiple sclerosis, even though MS is rare. Okay, patients with MS, some of them have gotten better when they take out those amalgams. Also, root canals are always infected. Some of the other dental implants, I haven't studied them as much, but I'd be a little bit concerned about them. Fluoride in tap water, it's a major brain neurotoxin, toxic to the gonads as well. Toxic to the spine. It's in toothpaste. Dental cleanings are stupid with fluoride. That's an absolutely stupid thing to do. Aluminum is also present in tap water, a so-called clarifier, because it binds stuff to it, but it forms complexes with the fluoride that increase traversal of the blood-brain barrier, and they're neurotoxic. You don't want that. They're both mitochondria inhibitors. Bad, bad, bad. Deodorant's even worse because you spray it, and then you inhale it, and it travels through the olfactory nerve, the nerve of smell, cranial nerve of smell, goes right up to the brain. Not good. Cookware. Some people eat off aluminum cookware. Totally stupid thing to do. You don't ever want to do that. You don't ever want aluminum in touching your food. You don't want to put your food in aluminum foil. You don't want to eat it out of aluminum containers like they sometimes have at buffets. A little bit of salt. Some salts will contain aluminum, an anti-caking agent. The trails of you-know-what they spray in the sky, not good for cognitive function. EMF can be severe. You want to avoid that to the extent you can. That also has an excitotoxin effect by increasing in your neurons, brain cells, cytoplasm, calcium, so they cause increased activation of the brain cells. Mitochondria inhibitors, I've listed over 120 of them. A lot of them are pharmaceuticals, heavy metals, lead, aluminum, mercury, cadmium, for example. Circuit inhibitors, basically anything that smells bad, like VOCs, volatile organic compounds, are often circuit inhibitors, as well as insulin resistance leads to circuit inhibition as well, which is a way to get calcium out of the cell cytoplasm. So thus they have an excitotoxic effect because they keep the brain cells overstimulated, which over time can lead to brain damage, especially as a person gets older and their blood supply gets compromised, or they're also taking drugs that contribute to these effects. So anyways, it's good to know what causes lowering of IQ so you can avoid that for kids and for yourself.